When you think of deer, you see a vivid image of wildlife and creatures with giant antlers. But we have also heard the horror stories of poaching and hunting of these poor animals. But did you know that there's a middle way now? Deer farming, or more specifically, deer farming for their velvet. Did you know deer velvet extract has exceptional medical values? So make sure to watch the video till the end so you don't miss out on anything. But before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Deer farming of any kind has always been a source of big controversy. What's with all the ruthless killing the poor animals have always been subjected to even in wildlife. Many countries forbid this practice, but there are some countries like New Zealand and China where they allow the practice for commercial profit. Commercial deer farming is a relatively new business as people are becoming more aware of the benefits of deer velvet for medicinal purposes. The demand for the essence has since magnified. Commercial farms these days host an extensive variety of breeds like elk, moose, reindeer, and especially white-tailed deer. Though classified as wild animals, deer are easily maintained as livestock, and because they are not kept at a very large scale like other farm animals, artificial breeding is not something many farms have considered for them. Deer are very efficient natural breeders if you have a good ratio of males and females on your farm. Does go through heat multiple times in a breeding season, usually in 28 days intervals. This is to increase the chances of pregnancy for the survival of the species. The gestation period of a doe is anywhere between 200 to 240 days. Given the high gestation period, most does produce one offspring every year. Rarely it's more than one. The fawn needs the nutrients of mother milk for about 10 to 12 weeks before they are ready for weaning. After that, the young one can be separated and treated to normal food. Deer are animals that can survive on any green food available in nature, like leaves and grass. Their eating pattern is the same as other herbivorous farm animals like goats, cows, and sheep. To ensure a healthy upbringing in the farms, they are fed grainy feeds and supplements along with a steady supply of fresh water. The young one continues to grow, but the fawn doesn't grow antlers until they are at least 2 years old. Deer always start to grow their antlers in early spring and through the summer. The antler is known as one of the fastest growing tissue in the animal kingdom. A white deer antler can grow as much as a quarter inch per day. It takes about 120 days for the antler to fully grow and harden. Deer shed their antler naturally when it hardens. At the time of shredding, the antler is already considered dead. For extraction of velvet, the antler has to be harvested when it's still young, which is after 45 to 55 days of growth. The antlers grow fast, so it's important to harvest them in time. During this time, the antlers have a fuzzy layer over them and have a velvet feel to touch. This velvet skin carries nutrient-rich blood to its bone. This is the medicinal velvet essence many people are seeking these days. Now let's take a look at the processing and production of velvet. To accommodate the harvesting of velvet, the farms have a separate barn or area that is made for this purpose. The barn is set up with a good handling facility that has a machine to steady the deer during the procedure. The deer must stay unmoving during the harvesting process to avoid further injuries. The cutting is done by a person with expertise in that area to ensure that the process takes place safely, efficiently, and within the least amount of time. The cutting is done one at a time to make sure that the rest of the group isn't anxious. It's important to keep the level of stress in these animals as low as possible. The deer is first sedated to make this process as painless and humane as possible. At this stage, the deer antlers are very sensitive to touch, unlike fully grown antlers that feel no pain. Next, a cutting cable is wrapped around the antlers to mark the area and it plugs the large veins. Then the antler is cut swiftly using the chainsaw or any sharp saw of choice. The cut is always made way above the deer's burr. The sawing method is done quickly and neatly to avoid causing any further pain to the deer. Then in some farms, the deer is released after the after treatment is finished. Did you know that after sawing the deer runs away from the group? This is because deer considered antlers as a sign of dominance and hierarchy, and once they lose it, they are ashamed to return to their group. This aloof feeling remains in them until he sees that all his fellow deer are also lacking their antlers. And just like that, peace is restored until the next season when their antler grows again. Now that the harvesting is done, let's move on to the processing part. The velvet is then tested for quality control, and once they give the OK sign, it is tagged and further documented to make it traceable. The next process is sanitation and drying. For this step, the farmer has a variety of processes to choose from. The oldest and most effective technique, still popular among farmers, is the boiling method. Here they stick the whole of velvet in boiling water and cook it for a few minutes. The time is calculated carefully because the velvet splits if it stays dipped for too long. The stick is dipped multiple times before it's ready for drying. They are cooled down in a room temperature or temperature-operated oven. Another method is where the velvet is placed in a hot oven for several hours and then dried at room temperature. Then the process is repeated several times. This process depends entirely on the length of the velvet stick and the climate outside. After the velvet is dried, it's time for the final process. The dried velvet stick is sliced into pieces and dried again before it's packed. It is either transported to the factories or is sold directly in the local and international market. Sometimes the farmers opt not to cut off the velvet and instead extract directly from the antlers. The deer is restrained and the deer's eyes are covered with a cloth to restrict him from seeing what's going on. An IV is inserted into the antler and the velvet is extracted right into the jar. Deer are easily panicked and highly intelligent, so you bet they'll freak out if they see a jar of blood filling near them. Several jars of velvet are shipped off to the factory, and thereafter a thorough quality test, the velvet is directly poured into the machine which dries and powders the essence. That's it, the velvet is ready for use. From there on, it is either made into different products, depending on the company, or sold off directly into the market. Overall, deer farming is a very easy, efficient business to get into if one is looking to raise a farm commercially. It's a pretty new agribusiness, but it's highly profitable. Deer have always been in great demand, whether it's for their skin, antler, meat, or velvet. While velvet is a great source of profit, it's not the only one. Deer meat is highly expensive than a cow, buffalo, goat, or chicken. As an herbivorous animal and a grain eater, it's very easy to feed them. Deer skin is very valuable in every market, local or international. It sells at a hefty price and has great demand in American and European countries. Overall, it's a thriving business sector to get into with high returns and low investment. The market for velvet is huge in Asian countries like South Korea, Taiwan, and China. As the demand increases, so does the price, and so deer farming is blooming every year. The huge supplier of deer velvet is New Zealand, and a report stated that the export value to China has nearly doubled in the past year, but South Korea remains the dominant market for New Zealand with a demand of 60% export value. It's a given since the velvet is set to promote youthful skin, sharpens thinking skills, and stimulates the production and circulation of blood. It is composed of amino acids, minerals, collagen, lipids, and protein. We are not even halfway into the benefits of deer velvet extracts. Let's list some more. As we know, velvet is said to have medicinal use as it helps improve the immune system and promote rapid recovery from illness. It's also effective in the treatment of high cholesterol, high blood pressure, weak bones, liver, and kidney disorders. It's also used as a tonic for children with mental disabilities and bone problems. That's too many benefits for one essence. So that was it for today, guys. Now that you have had an insider look at the deer farming business, what are your thoughts about it? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. See you next time.